All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to week one. Yay. Yeah, I can't believe the semester's already starting. Uh, we're not going to panic because at least we're here together. We could do everything when we do it together. So I did these videos for career counseling because that course was 100% asynchronous and it felt really hopeful. And so we're going to continue these videos for diagnosis and in the hope that they provide some clarity, but also kind of prep you and me, prep us together for the week ahead. Um, so again, it's been a minute. I recorded that welcome video in April 2025, and now it's August 2025. And a lot has changed. A lot has changed. But again, at least we're here together. My name's Dr. D or Dr. Daniel. Hopefully I said that already, but just in case I didn't, we are going to jump straight into week one. These videos are to give you some guidance on what's due, updates, announcements, all of that jazz, as well as journal questions. And I'll talk about journal questions when we get there. All right. Switching over to my trusty share screen. Okay. So again, week one diagnosis, fall 2025. We're already here. Gosh, I always get so nervous. It's gonna be fine. All right, moving on. Okay, kicking off with weekly agenda. So starting hot with updates on the syllabus and on the schedule. We will be meeting during finals week in this course. Man, I went back and forth on this, and no one loves more than me to not meet during finals week. But y'all are so excellent and so awesome that our class is so full. There's like 35 of you that for us to be able to do presentations at the end of the semester and for us to do them justice, we will need to meet during finals week. And so the diversity research presentations, that assignment is actually due the week before December 4th. But we'll have half of the presentations on the 4th, I believe, and then the other half during finals week. Yeah, it's disappointing because I know we all love to have finals week off. And I want to make sure that we cover all the content, we make sure you're fully prepared for diagnosis, and we give everyone in this course the support, the love, and the kudos for doing excellent on your diversity research presentations. So transitioning a little bit into that project, so diversity research presentations, you are cleared to sign up now. You can only have 4 people in your group, so you can have up to 4. Again, I believe there's 33 or 35 people in this class. If we have some stragglers, I can work that out. We'll see. But right now, only 4 folks. So when you're putting your groups together, you're going to read the directions. Make sure you add yourself to a group before you submit anything. That assignment is actually not, your topic is not due until week 3. But I want you to already start thinking about what you want your topic to be or could be, and who you want in your group. You might want to be in a group with your friends because, we love hanging out with people we get along with. It makes the project a little bit easier. You might want to be with people you've never met before, but it's because you want to do a topic like psychedelics. We'll talk a lot about psychedelics this semester. Let me slow down. I'm talking way too fast. Hi, welcome to fall 2025. It's going to be a long semester, but we're in it together. Um, or you want to do a topic that feels close to your heart. Whatever feels salient for you is salient for me. As long as you cover the requirements, I actually don't care what your topic is on. Done. All right. If you do have questions about that, please let me know. We will talk about it in class as well, but I want you to start thinking about your groups because week 3 is going to come sooner than we think. Excellent. All right. So back to week 1. All right. Week 1. Readings. So you're reading Morrison 2024 Basic of Diagnosis. This PDF is actually linked on the main page of our Canvas shell. It's important that you click on that link because this part of Morrison 2024 is different than our core textbook, but covers all of the basics, the ins and the outs, the how we're going to diagnose, all of that jazz, so that we can get started in that process on week 2. You're also reading history taking and assessment techniques. This is also in line with the case conceptualization, which we'll talk about more. There is, oh, I think there should be a video up for that assignment. If there's not, I'm working on that right now. The goal for this course is to have a YouTube video for every single assignment. I'm actually really proud of myself about that, but I'm excited as well. So if that's not up yet, it will be. So just give me a second. I'll make sure that that's up for you. Then you are reading why psychopharmacology, why psychopharmacology and neurobiology. That is an article. We're kicking off, like I said in the welcome video. This class is covering diagnosis and psychopharmacology. I just think it's a disservice that we at CU Denver don't teach you about psychopharm, but your clients are going to talk about medication. They're going to talk about cannabis. They're going to talk about psychedelics. They're going to talk about natural medicine. They're going to talk about the Advil that they take. They're going to talk about their Benadryl addiction without knowing they have a Benadryl addiction. They're just going to talk about lots of stuff, and I want to make sure that you're fully ready and fully prepared for that. Done. Then we are talking about safe spaces to brave spaces. I talked about this already. You already had a trigger warning for this course. We're going to get into a little bit of everything. Like, I'm going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be uncomfortable. We're all just going to be like, that was awkward, but here we are together working through it. I want to make sure that you're fully prepared for all of your client work and that you're ready to meet your clients in a way that changes their lives because that is the work we do. I mean, no pressure. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, keep going. So, 2 assignments for this week. Week 1 readings. So that was the readings I just listed. You will get 5 points for every bullet. So you should have 20 points altogether. I did put up a little bit of an overview of what you need for your readings. Make sure you give that a look over. Make sure you're very clear on what you have to submit. The goal is that your notes, your weekly readings are really for you, but for us to know that you read, for Paige and I to have a clear idea that you know what's going on so that when we're in class and I'm like, hey, here's a question for y'all. What do you think? You can actually respond because this class is discussion based. And it's really hard to jump into the nitty gritty if y'all are not read. All right, then welcome video, not this video, the other video from April 2025. That video gives you an overview of the whole course for the whole semester and the ins and outs and things you need to know. It also gives you an opportunity to ask any questions you may not be comfortable asking in person or in class. So make sure you watch that video before the first day of classes because it's due before the first day of classes. All right. Now, journal questions. So for this class, you do have the personhood project, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next week. But for the personhood project, the real goal for this was to push us in our edges and really think about what does it mean for us to start to cultivate a counseling identity as it pertains to our everyday identities. So for me, identify as a Black woman, as a mentor, as an advocate, as a sister, as a daughter. Those things are unique to me, but I also identify as a counselor educator. And that identity is just as important as my other ones. And when we think about our everyday lives and we think about how do we hold space for academic learning and just the craziness that is life right now, not me having an existential moment. I mean, Dr. Schafel would be like, existentialism, yes, girl. But what does that mean? What does that look like? How do we tease that out? Now, for your journals, you're not actually going to be able to submit your journals. We just look at them. And it's because I want your journals to be a place where you can write your thoughts, write things that you like about class, write things that you don't like about class, write things that you don't like about me. I want you to be able to write the stuff down in your little place that feels safe, but not safe, feels brave and congruent for what you need. It's also over and over and over again Folks who journal get so much more out of this course, out of their learning. They get so much more growth in their everyday lives. They get opportunities to process things in a way that is not afforded to people who don't journal. So I know some of y'all are like, journaling, that sounds terrible. You know what? Humor me. Just humor me. I might change your mind about it. I might change your mind. I might change your life. And then where will we be? Write that on my teacher evaluation. Dr. D changed my life. It's a little too early for that, but remember this or come back to it. That felt very like TikTok tarot reader. Save this for later for when it comes true. Um, these videos are also just a snapshot of whatever I have going on, whatever I'm thinking, whatever I'm journaling, whatever I'm writing, and really what informs this class, because we're going to talk a lot about what happens outside the classroom and how we process it, how we process our co-learning, our like simultaneous experiences while everything is happening on the outside. Okay, so journals again, you can't turn them in. You just show them to us. You can have a virtual journal, you can have a written journal, whatever feels congruent to you. They can be about what happened in class. I really want them to be about what happens in class, but I also found in career counseling and in my other diagnosis class over the summer that sometimes it was helpful just to have some journal topics that were things that I was thinking about, things that I'm processing with my community, and kind of things that come up. So this is the transition. So I'm going to transition us into the journal questions. You can stop watching now if you're like, oh, journals, I don't like that life. I don't want to do that. I'm fine with that. Or you can listen to me pontificate on these journal questions. But that's next. So if you're signing off, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining and happy week one. If you're down for the ride, you could also put this at 2 times speed or like 1.5 times speed and listen to me in the fast version. I think I already talk fast, but I could talk faster. And we're going to jump into journals. All right, journal questions. So this journal question is a little bit bigger than normal. And the reason that is because this week you read From Safe Spaces to Brave Spaces. And this is an article I actually read in my master's program in 2015. Often I find folks and students who are like, man, why haven't we been talking about this? And the truth is, this article, this call to action came out, I believe, in 2015, and came through student services. So there's a bunch of folks in student services who are like, you know what? Safe spaces ain't it. Safe spaces ain't it. What are we going to do? And try to make this push towards moving towards brave spaces. I have been trying to get this article and this conversation in student orientation since I got here in 2022. And I just can't convince my colleagues yet. But because I'm able to teach, this is an article I use in every single class. So you've had class with me before, you've read this before, we've had conversations in different ways. I want you to think about this differently. So if you've read this before and you're like, oh, I already know what this is, like I already know what safe spaces are, I already know what brave spaces are, I know courageous conversations, blah, blah, blah. I want you to take a deep breath, to clean the slate, and to instead think about it in terms of what it looks like today. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you in all your glory. So right now in 2025, we are in a very interesting time and an interesting experience in it feels very shaky, very unknown. It just feels heavy, right? And I don't mean just politically, I mean socially as well. I actually do not care who you voted for, and I don't care what your political beliefs are, right? If we are creating a community together in this classroom and we are offering opportunities for people to show courage and show bravery by asking difficult questions and showing up in ways that pushes them to take a risk and be vulnerable, I really want you to think about what does vulnerability look like right now in 2025 when the stakes feel so high. All right. Vulnerability in 2025 is not the same vulnerability I was talking about even 6 months ago. right? Even for me as a professor, I have a lot to lose. I have a lot, like a lot on the line. And yet every day I go hard for my community because it's really important to me. Um, and so this is the first journal question I have for y'all. So, how do you personally define a safe space in context of counseling, and how does this definition compare to the concept of a brave space? Okay, so safe space versus brave space in a counseling context. Then reflect on any experiences where you felt safety was prioritized over the need for courageous dialogue, and how did this impact your learning or the dynamics of the conversation? All right. So, in this first question, when we're thinking about your journals or really thinking about your experience, think about what it was like either in this program or in your undergrad or in a different master's program where you felt like there was really an opportunity to push the envelope, to have a brave conversation, but safety was chosen instead and comfort was chosen instead, right? So, too often we associate comfort with safety, right? So, like, oh, I'm comfortable, therefore I'm safe, therefore everything is fine. The the struggle with this, oh gosh, the struggle with this is that my safety doesn't mean that you're safe. Okay. My comfort doesn't mean that you're comfortable. All right. And too often we prioritize the comfort of dominant communities and dominant identities. All right. Yes, we could talk about race and ethnicity all day. We talk about race and ethnicity over and over and over again. Yes, it's very important. I agree. As someone who studies race and racism, I agree it's very important. However, I'm going to talk about gender today, right? So if you have a dominant gender, okay, so if you identify as a woman or a man, we'll just use those two very binary genders right now. Okay. Those two things are so solidified in our communities and our identities that they are so normalized that safety only exists in the binary. Okay. That means that if you don't identify with the binary, you already are uncomfortable. Therefore, if we're not able to have any real conversations about differences, about non-binary, about trans communities, if we're not able to have any conversations about things intersecting with gender, right? Like marriage, like dating, relationships, something just simple as like being in a downtown campus. If you identify as a woman, you may not feel comfortable leaving class and walking to your car by yourself, right? But there's a lot of safety and a lot of privilege in identifying as a woman. Okay. So when we think about what does it mean in the counseling context to have a brave conversation around gender, really thinking about what has that conversation look like for me? When have there been opportunities where I chose safety over bravery because I was uncomfortable? And often for me, a big one, right, is holding the line between professionalism as a professor and your autonomy as students, right? So there's often times where my curiosity as a person, because I'm genuinely curious to know who you are and know all these like amazing things about you, does not override the fact that I'm still a professor, right? Like I can't ask you certain things because it's unprofessional of me to do, because it pushes on your autonomy and doesn't create a brave space, because my power overrides the comfort and the courageous conversation happening. All right. Another thing I think of often is I think about gender and the male identity, right? Or identifying as a man or a men. Okay. Too often in our society right now, especially, we talk about men not being emotionally unavailable. And I laugh because it's like we've set this up in a way where we have attached strength, attached success, attached all of these things that are not actually fully measurable to the idea man. Okay. And when we think about that level of masculinity, it also strips out a lot of opportunities for vulnerability, a lot of opportunities for emotions, a lot of opportunities to lean into moments of fear and of just saying, like, I don't know, or like, I don't got it, right? Like, I should be able to say that just as much as my male friends or like my friends who identify as men, right? But that difference doesn't exist, right? And so when we think about safe spaces and the binary, whether it is gender, whether it is race and racism, whether it is socioeconomic status, SES, whether it's language, right? Like some of my closest community members, some of my colleagues, English is not their first language, right? And the idea that they have to apologize for not being clear because they're worried that they're going to be misunderstood means that we're not always creating a brave space for them to feel valued, but also to feel like they can make mistakes, right? Like that you can say what you need to say in whatever language you need to say it in. And if I need clarity, I will ask for it because I have trust in our relationship. And I believe that we can have a genuine, brave conversation that doesn't put the other person down or doesn't challenge the other person in terms of who they are at their core. Okay. So when we're thinking at that, right, also considering how has this impacted your learning, right? So when you have felt scared, uncomfortable, when you have felt nervous, when you have felt unable to claim your voice, have you been able to learn in that environment? Have you been able to walk out of that environment feeling empowered? What did you have to sacrifice in yourself to leave that place, right? Or like disassociate, shut down, right? These are the things we think about in diagnosis as well. Like disassociation is huge for people who have trauma responses, right? Like often a trauma response is just a clear sign that we do not feel brave, but we're a little nervous or we're a little scared or we don't feel that we can be courageous. Okay. And something I'm thinking about for me right now is when I've had moments, especially over the summer, when I didn't know something and I was nervous to say that I didn't know because in that space, people see me as Dr. Daniel. It meant that I was trying to guess or I was trying to overcompensate in a way that wasn't unique to me, but also didn't show who I was as a person. Okay. And so I just came back from the American Psychological Association, which actually was here in Denver, which I loved. Like, yes, all the conferences come to Denver so I can hang out with my friends. But this is the first APA that I've been to, and I've been going to APA on and off since 2012, where I felt incredibly brave, incredibly courageous. I felt 100% like myself. I felt like I could be myself at all times. And the main factor in that is this is the first time that I didn't have a leadership position and I wasn't stressed out. Like I was talking to Dr. Nori and he was like, "Hey, when are you going to come back to leadership?" And I was just like, "What? I am so happy. I am living my best life." Like I love APA. I love all of you. I love seeing all of you. And it's clearly because leadership in the spaces is not meant for me because I have never been so wildly comfortable and so wildly excited to be here. And so for me, that is a clear indication for me where in that space, there's been too many times at APA where I didn't feel safe and I didn't feel brave. And so I silenced myself. I wasn't myself. I didn't show up in ways that was congruent to who I am. And this year, 2025, Dr. D was living her best life. Like it was a homecoming. I got to hang out with all my friends. It was amazing. Okay. So really thinking about it feels so insignificant at times in the moment where we're like, oh, we're just trying to get through, or we're just trying to survive, blah, blah, blah. Yes, 100%, that's real. And and if it doesn't have to be like that, what can it be like? And is it possible for us to show up in brave ways that don't just support ourselves? Like me being myself was a reflection of like who I truly am and like what I love about the work I do. And it gave me an opportunity to meet people in a brave space where I could pour into others because I wasn't worried about people taking from me. Right. And that, oh, yes, 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 yes. Okay. So the next question is, Reflect on a time when you encountered discomfort during a discussion about diversity, privilege, or social justice. What emotions did you experience and how did you respond? Okay. Then, how can you prepare yourself to embrace discomfort in future counseling sessions to foster deeper understanding and growth for both yourself and your clients? All right. So, this question, similar to the last one, is really thinking about in the counseling space what's happening for you, right? So, like in moments, I think about courageous conversations. I think about, oh, I think so much about multicultural counseling, that class, all kinds of stuff happens in multicultural counseling, which is just like a big question mark. Like it either goes really well or it goes like questionable, or people like have multicultural trauma. There's just a lot. There's just for generations, for like I still remember my multicultural counseling experiences as a master's student. Wild. Um, so, when did you experience discomfort? And then, what emotions did you experience and how did you respond? And how can you prepare yourself to embrace discomfort in future counseling sessions to foster deeper understanding and growth for both yourself and your clients? And I'm going to keep this one short just because I feel like I went on a whole tirade for the last one. But in this question, something, we're going to take a deep breath. Okay. So, I'm taking a deep breath for this question because something that I had to learn and something that has really supported how I responded to people who challenge me, how I think about difficult conversations, how I think about just discomfort as a whole really comes through slowing down. Okay. So I started off this video feeling a little bit anxious, feeling a bit nervous, being like, oh my gosh, it's week one. We're like, go, go, go. Like it's already starting. And I just had to be like, oh, pause. Let's pause. Let's slow down. Let's slow down. Okay. This summer, something that I'm so grateful for in all of these personal experiences I've had is I had a moment with a friend where I felt triggered, okay, and triggered in a way where I was ready to respond in a previous version of myself, okay? And what I mean by previous version is there have been times in my life where I have leaned into my Taurus earth energy and came in hot and stubborn and ready to fight, right? Like my number one response when I am caught off guard, when I am unsure, when I am doubtful, is to come ready with receipts, to come with resistance, to come with energy, to come with fire, to come with like, who are you talking to, right? I I love a moment where you just look at someone and you're just like, who are you talking to? Or like lower your tone, right? I love pettiness, I love sassiness. I love showing up with energy. I love matching energy. I can live in that space for generations to come. And and what I've learned about myself is when I slow down, when I take a deep breath, when I settle the emotions in my heart and in my soul, and I just take a moment to think, how do I want to respond in the best version of myself? Often that requires no response at all, right? So often when I feel pushed to my edges or I feel a little fire in my heart, in a lot of cases, the best response I can give you is no response at all. And when I think about this question, right, of how do you prepare yourself to embrace discomfort? I have to take a deep breath and lean into the discomfort and really ask myself why I'm uncomfortable and what is this trying to teach me about myself and about the situation. And I wish I could tell you like, man, y'all, Dr. D has been doing this for generations. This is work that I've only been doing the last year. really just stopping and thinking, do I need to contribute to this conversation? What about my contribution is important? And the critical piece to this is, am I responding to reflect, or am I responding to prove something to myself? Right? Like, am I responding to you to show you that I know what I'm doing or to show you that I'm smart? Or am I responding with a full heart because I really reflected on what you said and this is how that sat with me? Right? And that is a community conversation, a conversation that comes from a heart space, that comes from curiosity, a conversation that shows up with love and uh, like just willingness to share a collective space we built together is always an opportunity to build something from bravery that we don't think enough about. And so for you in your journal and in these thoughts and how you're showing up, right? Thinking about not just when you're uncomfortable or when you didn't feel safe or when you didn't feel like people had your back, how that kept you from trying new things, how that kept you from pushing the limit, how that kept you from leaning in to a conversation that you know you wanted to have, but you felt like people weren't willing to hear you. Instead, thinking about what did you need and how could you have provided that if the roles were reversed, right? So yeah, so that's something I've been thinking nonstop about this summer, is how do I showed up? How do I show up in my most healed version while leaning forward with bravery and pushing myself to learn something new without letting fear decide how I embody it, how I accept it, how I feel it, right? Like, too often fear determines too much of what I want to do. And if anything, I hope that this semester, this course, this opportunity shows you that fear doesn't have to lead you, that bravery, even when you're uncomfortable, is the best courage you could ever have. All right. That is our journal. This video is already like 8 million times too long. Welcome to week one. If you made it this far, I'm grateful for you and I'm so excited to have you in this course. I will see you next week.